Lesson 10. The last Niyama and the conclusion of the yamas and the niyamas. The last niyama is called Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara means the most high, higher power, the universe, or God. Pranidhana, if you look at the word pranidhana, you see the word prana, which is energy. Pranidhana means letting energy flow. This is a very interesting concept that we have translated into English as surrender. What does surrender mean? It means accepting things as they are. So all the yamas and niyamas are coming together here. You have started practicing yoga. You started developing consciousness, increased sensitivity. You started gaining insight in yourself, your characteristics, and with that, in your past experiences, and also you develop as a result of all this, naturally you develop an insight into the world around you. There are many things that you will discover that you won't like, that you think are unfair, that you think are not correct. You become more conscious of not only yourself, but everything in the world around you. And many discoveries will be positive and constructive, but there will be many realizations that you wish you didn't know about, that you wish you would have remained ignorant about. But that's not how it works. And again, ego comes into play, because when we discover the past, when we become aware of our childhood memories, painful experiences, traumatic experiences, because you will become aware of those too. Ego will kick in, and you will start feeling sorry for yourself. You will start lamenting yourself. You will start comparing yourself to other people and ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Why do I have to suffer this and other people seem to be so happy? This is because of ego. Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender, means first and foremost to accept things as they are. Because you can't change them. You can't change the past. You can't change the experiences that you went through, especially the painful ones. What you can do is change your perception, change your attitude, and change into the future. That is what you can do. Now, how is this related to the higher power? How is this related to the universe or God? I have to tell you something about God. Most people don't understand what God really means. They think that there is somebody up there behind a cloud who is looking at you and who will punish you when you do wrong. But the ancient people, they didn't think about God in that way. That God was created later by government to control people. Our modern religions are based on this idea that there is a person up there with a higher power who controls our lives. When yoga talks about a higher power, it's much more sophisticated than that. It's about the universe. There is an incredible fine-tuned balance in the universe that has allowed organic life to occur on this planet Earth. Life that we haven't found anywhere else yet. It's unique. And it's only possible because there is a very carefully fine-tuned balance. And we talked about balance a lot. Organic life, we are organic life, is only possible when certain conditions are met. There has to be the right amount of building blocks, proteins. There has to be liquid, water. There has to be oxygen in the proper amount. But very important also is that the temperature has to be limited between a bandwidth. That if it exceeds upper or lower level of the bandwidth, which all other planets do, it's either too cold or too hot or both. Organic life is simply not possible. Our planet happens to have this perfect balance that has made not just organic life possible, it has led to the evolution of sophisticated life in the form of the human beings with consciousness. That is a miracle. If you think about how this is possible, only here and not anywhere else, that is a miracle. That is made possible by the forces of the universe. The universe itself, for many people it just seems like a black hole or total chaos. It's not. Everything is very accurately ordered in the universe. Our planet is part of a solar system. Those planets are circling around the sun. They never bump into each other. They have a fixed cycle. That is, our perception of time comes from this fixed cycle. The number of times we turn around the sun, and the number of times that the moon turns around the earth. So we have the solar system, which is part of the Milky Way, the galaxy, which has billions of solar systems. And none of them clash. They always stay in a certain place. And if they move, they always move in a controlled way. Incredibly complex, complicated. That is a miracle. That is the power of the universe. If you think about it, you become religious, right? There is something there. But not a person that sits there and punishes you when you do something wrong. That galaxy is only one galaxy, containing billions of stars, suns. But in the universe, there are billions of galaxies. It's mind-boggling. And all those galaxies are perfectly regulated systems of billions of solar systems, billions of stars that never bump into each other. And all those galaxies, they move around the universe and they never bump into each other. It would be chaos and mayhem if that would happen. So if you contemplate that, it's amazing. It's amazing that we are part of that. And that we have the privilege to be in this place where the universe created the perfect circumstances for organic life to exist. I'm an atheist. You know what an atheist is? That is a person who doesn't believe in God. But you know, research has also shown that atheists have a much better concept of what God really means than religious people. You understand that? That is what I'm trying to explain. My concept of God is not just a man up there or a woman that punishes citizens on earth when they commit sins. That's not what God is. But that's what many people do, also in yoga, by the way. In 1999, I was asked by 2000 maybe, I was asked by the Indian ambassador's wife to teach yoga in their residence in Itaewon. On the hill in Itaewon, you have these huge houses. Samsung family lives there. Embassies are there. Rich people live there. Nobody ever comes there. But huge houses. The Indian embassy was very big. And she asked me to teach yoga to her and people from the diplomatic community, diplomats, and some people from the multinational companies, Korean and foreigners alike. So a big honor to be asked by the Indian embassy. Huh? Remember, yoga is a Indian heritage, cultural heritage. And I was a little bit confused that they would ask a foreign yogi to teach yoga. So when we talked about her invitation to, I was just very honest with her. I said, Kamala, why? Are you asking me, a Dutch guy, to teach yoga to you, representative of the Indian Indian culture, and your acquaintances? Why? I'm pretty sure there are Indian yogis that you could ask to do this. And you know what her answer was? I talked with Indian yogis and all they do is talk about God. But not the God that I am trying to explain here, but like the man up there that will punish you when you commit sin. And she said, your approach to yoga is very practical and that is what we want. That is why we have asked you to do it. Ishvara Pranidhana is like the practice of contentment, is to change your point of view about things into a positive way by accepting that thing, not only accepting things as they are, and that is just for practical reasons. You can't turn back the clock. You can't go back into the past and change things. So what happened, happened. But not just blindly accepting things, but the realization that the things that happened in the past that you perceive through your ego, you perceive them as negative and painful, undesirable experiences, they actually turn into a positive and constructive experience because they shape who you are. Bad experiences can make you miserable, but if you change your perception about them, they actually add new qualities to you. Past experiences, when we stop looking at them in a negative way, they allow us to do things that otherwise would not have been possible. It is how I came to Korea and stayed here. I gave up my Dutch nationality, you know that? I can't go back to my country. I'm a foreigner in my country. I have a Korean passport. In 2012, I did a ilban kia, naturalization. I just gave up my Dutch nationality. And people say, you're crazy. Korean people say, you are from the Netherlands? And they scratch their head and they say, Netherlands is the country with the best social security system in the world. How can you give that up? I didn't think about that because that is thinking from your fear. Well, I'm thinking from my head, from my spirit, from hope and courage. I have no intention to depend on social welfare. The universe will take care of me. Every time things happen unexpectedly, at the right time, at the right place, I meet the right persons, or the right offer is being made, or something happens that helps me to sustain myself. Look, I have 4 students. That is not sustainable. I can't pay the bills from 4 students, and yet I survive. My past experiences have given me the fuel to do what I'm doing. To leave my country, establish myself here, teach yoga in a proper way. I'm not compromising just to earn money. I would never have been able to do that if I hadn't had all these experiences in my past that at that time I thought really hurt me and were really negative and unfair, and all these things that your ego presents you with, making you miserable. When I started practicing yoga, it changed my life. It changed my perception about the past. I started looking to the future. I started following my heart. As I tried to explain to you this morning. And it brought me to Korea. I developed an interest in martial arts 1 year after I started practicing yoga, started following my heart. I felt strongly attracted to martial arts. So I started researching a little bit. Karate, Kung Fu, Taekwondo, and then I found Hapkido. And I called and I said, what's the difference between Hapkido and Taekwondo? And they said, Taekwondo is more like physical, but Hapkido has a little bit of spiritual component to it, with the ki energy. And so I felt attracted to that. So I went there and I started practicing Hapkido, which is Korean. That's why I'm in Korea. If I had felt attracted to karate or jiu-jitsu, I would have gone to Japan. Or I would have gone to China if I had become interested in something Chinese. But Korea. There is no coincidence in life. Everything happens for a reason and a purpose. And if you can accept this, you will not suffer anymore. Because every time when something goes wrong, or that you think is wrong, when you fail, when you get hurt, you remember this. It is happening for a reason. It is teaching you something. It is bringing you closer to your goal. It helps you to realize better what you really need to do in this life, according to your heart. If you can look at misery and suffering in this way, it's not misery and suffering anymore. Everything bad turns into something positive. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Your ego doesn't allow you to believe that. Your ego tells you, I was treated unfairly when I was young. I was hurt by those terrible people when I was young. I was abused. I was beaten up. I was bullied. Your ego will make you continuously to feel miserable if you continue like this. That is why it's so important that you understand ego and that you stop being controlled by ego. Because your crown chakra, your wisdom, your insight will tell you many good things have happened as a result of the bad things. And those good things would not have happened if you hadn't had those bad experiences. You know what happens when you realize this? You stop thinking about good and bad. Because you realize that what you thought were bad things were just experiences designed to stimulate you to manifest yourself, to express yourself, to do things that you otherwise never would think about doing, or wouldn't have the courage of doing. You understand this? Then people say, but what about abuse? What about rape? That's horrible, isn't it? Yes, it's horrible. There are many horrible things in this world. Torture, rape, what have you. But people who are confronted with these kind of traumatic experiences, they can go two ways. One way is the way of self-destruction. You feel so miserable about what happened and you continue to feel like that into the future, years later, that you destroy yourself. It destroys your happiness. It destroys your chances to have a good life. It does. So if you think rationally, who would want to do that? There must be an alternative. That is Ishvara Pranidhana. First, accept things as they are. You can't change them. Even though very painful experience, you cannot go back and change it. You cannot undo it. So you might as well do something positive with it. You might as well do something constructive with it. And don't get me wrong, this experience will always be with you. And once in a while it will come back. But it won't hurt you anymore as much as it did before. It will become like an old friend. And when it comes to your mind, to your memory, you will say, I recognize you, I know you, but I don't need you anymore. I've been miserable for so long, it's enough. I want to move on. And you move on. You focus on something else. That is what Ishvara Pranidhana is. Accept things as they are. And very important in this process, and I say it again, is ego. It is ego that makes you feel miserable about the past. You will say, but I had those experiences. I have a right to feel miserable. You understand what your ego is doing with you? Your ego tells you, I have a right to be miserable. Please let me be miserable. People enjoy being miserable, sadly. As a yogi, you can't anymore. Because as a yogi, you're so conscious, so sensitive, you know that you have a choice. And you know that you don't have to be miserable anymore. Sounds easy, it is not. I know, but that is what life is about. Start focusing on the things that you feel attracted to. What I put on the board this morning, or this previous session with the circles. Start following your heart. Choose activities that you strongly feel attracted to, that you strongly feel passionate about, and go from there, little by little. Change your life from a life determined by the past to a life determined by your heart into the future. You will completely transform your life. And as a result, the miserable you will become a happy and joyful you. Not in spite of the past. Listen carefully. Not in spite of the past, but because of the past. And that is how a negative turns into a positive. You realize that you would never have reached this development, this point, if you hadn't had those bad experiences in the past. So, you still think that those were bad experiences? Of course, it shouldn't have happened. Abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, it should not have happened, but it happened. So you ask yourself, why did it happen? It happened to make a better person out of me. It happened to stimulate me doing extraordinary things, things that this world needs. Like me teaching yoga here and rescuing a poor dog from the riverside park. That other people expressed their concern, but nobody was willing to help. Can you follow this? Can you understand this? Can you overcome ego and start thinking in this way? That is Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana means that you accept that the universe has a plan. It wants you to be a better person. The universe has a plan to make a better person out of you. A person who contributes to making this world a better place. And that is not possible without suffering and misery. If your life from the moment you were born was totally without any misery, without any pain, you wouldn't be able to do anything extraordinary. Because you're not being stimulated to do anything extraordinary. That is just human nature. It is the suffering, the experiences from the past that make you do things that stand out. That make you have the courage to follow your heart. But, again, it can go two ways. Many people, because of ego, choose the way of drowning themselves in their misery because of ego. But as a yogi, you will reach the point that you know that you have a choice. You will reach the point that you say to yourself, I feel so miserable. I don't want this anymore. What can I do? What do I need to do to change this? And you start following your heart. Because you know that that is the only way that you can find your happiness again after all those years of misery. accept that the things that happened in the past happened for a reason. Not just to hurt you. The hurt is only stimulating you to change. Is only stimulating you to undertake action that will lead to extraordinary developments. Watch the news. There are documentaries about people who are doing very special things in the community. Those people sometimes are being interviewed on the news or some documentary. And you always find out that these people went through horrible experiences before they ended up becoming very valuable citizens. Victims of war, torture, rape. Many people go down under with their misery, but people who can transform that, they become special. They become extraordinary, fueled by their horrible experiences. And that is what it is designed to do. And according to philosophy, the people that succumb, the people that do not survive their misery in this life, they will be born again. And they will have to do it all over again. And they will have misery again, hoping that they will transform. You understand that? It's the law of karma. The law of karma makes you come back until you get the message. Until you stop being controlled by your karma and you start doing something constructive. I mean, controlled by ego. Until you stop being controlled by ego that always draws you into your misery. And start doing something constructive with your misery. According to Buddhist philosophy, Eastern philosophy, life is misery. Buddhists accept that. So they say, and based on this principle, surrender, they will say, well, God wants me to suffer, so I will just suffer. It's a very negative approach to Ishvara Pranidhana. That is not what it's meant to be, because it's very fatalistic and negative. That means that you just passively suffer because God said life is misery. That is such nonsense, you know? Misery is occurring to stimulate us. It has a reason and a purpose. But that is not going to happen if you say, well, God's wanted, so I just have to accept my misery. No. Turn it into something positive. That's what it is about. You know that there are many religious people which, from my point of view, don't feel offended if you go to church or a temple and you consider yourself to be religious. But there are many religious people who interpret surrender in a negative way, in a passive way, and like we learned with the practice of contentment, it can lead to an excuse for being lazy. So in certain cultures, you hear people say all the time, if God wants it, then it will happen. So what happens is, you need a passport, you go to the office, and they will say, if God wants it, it will happen. And they do nothing for you. And it will take weeks or months, and probably bribes, before you finally get your passport. And they will just say, yeah, it's all in God's hands. Much worse is that there are people who kill other people in the name of God. The Catholic Church has done that hundreds of years ago. But it's still happening in the Muslim world, for example. The Muslim world, Islam. People kill in the name of God. That was the whole problem with ISIS in the Middle East. They base their violence on a holy book. A holy book that preaches love and compassion. And they turn that into an excuse for killing people because they don't believe in their God. And they say, our God is better than your God, so I have a right to kill you. No, that is happening. That has nothing to do with this. People just distort philosophy, ancient philosophy, just to serve their own evil purpose. You understand a little bit what Ishvara Pranidhana is about? And I say again, life is not about what you want. Life is about what you have to do. The universe will present you with what you have to do if you follow your heart. I never wanted to have dogs anymore because it was very painful when my previous dog died, but also I'm limited. I can't travel. I can't go anywhere with dogs. And if you have a small dog, you can go to places, to restaurants, cafes. You can even travel with small dogs. I have 2 big dogs. I can't go anywhere. But that's what the universe wanted me to do, and I feel good about it. I'm still limited to travel, but okay. I can use this time constructively to achieve other goals that I need to fulfill. And the dogs, therefore, give me the stability that I need to pursue those goals. If the dogs were not there, I wouldn't have this purpose. I would be distracted from what is really important in life. So that it all makes sense. It's not what I wanted. If you ask me what I want to live in New Zealand or Australia. Beautiful countries, beautiful nature. I want to be wealthy. I want to go on a vacation. I want to drive a Porsche. That is what I want. I'm not doing any of those kind of things. What I'm doing is what is essential for life. And it feels good. That is Ishvara Pranidhana. Of course, there are things that you want to do, but the universe doesn't agree with that. What, you don't want dogs anymore? Here you have 2. I got 2. Crazy. You understand a little bit? You have questions about this? Yes?
I read that this last Niyama could also mean study of scriptures.
Say again?
This could also mean study of the traditional books, scriptures.
Maybe that is an alternative explanation, but that is not what I see in Ishvara Pranidhana.
I was just going to ask, I was looking at the Yoga Sutra by Patanjali, and
Yeah.
there are many translations.
Yeah. No, there are many interpretations. Yes, same with the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And there's a lot of nonsense books interpretations of those two.
Which one would you recommend for?
Ajita's version. The one that I sent you, the PDF file that I sent you of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And I think in my computer I have an English version of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali also from Ajita. I have to look at. I translated it for him, so I don't know if I don't know if I have a PDF file of it, but I will have a look. Look, holy books. A lot of things go wrong with those books because they are being translated by scholars who have no experience with yoga. So how can you translate a science with which you have no experience? And that's where it goes wrong. And then there is also the issue with the interpretation, not the translation, but the interpretation, is that there are many people who are not properly initiated into yoga who assume the authority to interpret a book like that. And it leads to very serious mistakes that that withhold the right information from people who so badly need it. We are all hungry for the truth. We're all hungry for insights. And many people translate those books full of truth in a wrong way, in a fake way, because they've never really studied the matter. On Amazon, I bought a version of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika out of curiosity to compare it with Ajita's version. And there is a sutra in chapter 1 that says, stay away from fire. And we will read that and I will explain you exactly what it means. But the author of that book interpreted stay away from fire. You know what he said? If you come too close to fire, you get burned. How does that help? It doesn't. Fire is not about fire. It's about your Manipura chakra, because that is the fire center. But he didn't mention any of that at all, which tells me he doesn't know anything about yoga. But he had a fancy name. He had a fancy Indian name that intimidates people, thinking that he is a specialist because he has a fancy Indian name. I put that book away. I probably still have it. I can't remember throwing it away, but I will never ever open that book again. He's violating all the yamas and the niyamas. Just writing a book because he has a fancy name, full of nonsense, fooling people like you and me, sincere people who are looking for answers, who want to understand yoga, who want to understand life, who want to understand themselves. And then you just give them that kind of nonsense. You let them pay for your book and you give them that kind of nonsense. There are too many of those books. Really. People often ask me, when they start the course, can I read some books in anticipation before the course starts? And I always say, no, just come to the course. You will learn everything that you need to know, because books only confuse you more. All right, let's have a short break.